The snake from the Garden of Eden. A lot of people think that it was Enki, one of the two Anunnaki half-brothers. A lot of people believe that he actually had a half of a body of a snake. But I'm going to tell you the story that proves that the Anunnaki had never even seen snakes before they came to Earth. We left off that Allalu had just landed on Earth, and when he wakes up, it's the next day, and he plans to go out adventuring. And here's the story where he sees the first ever snake and how he reacts to it. Allalu, the fugitive king from Nibiru, was the first extraterrestrial to ever set foot on Ki, or what we call planet Earth. This is a story of the first morning Allalu wakes up on Earth after he landed the previous day. What startled him the most was waking up to a dazzling light that was coming from the outside cabin window. You see, on Nibiru, they don't have sunrise and sunset because they are too far away from our sun. Their planet emanates a red light from the insides of their planet. I don't quite understand it. He calls it the unseen glow. First thing he did was take a tester equipment pole from the ship. It tested the planet's air, proving it was compatible with him. And after opening the hatch, he inhaled deeply. He kept on taking large breaths, and then he exclaimed, "The air on Ki is suitable." Allalu clapped his hands and sang a happy tune. He would not perish without an eagle helmet or a fish suit. An eagle helmet and a fish suit means that he had astronaut equipment, the same kind of suits and equipment we use when we go on other planets. He describes the sun's rays as being blinding, so he had to go back into the ship to get his eye masks. And the eye mask is described as sunglasses. Then he grabbed his sword and something called a sampler and set off. He decided to go out adventuring and exploring. Then he made his way all the way up to the marshes, where the water was a dark green. Here's something I noticed. I think the Anunnaki may be able to see in the dark because he never mentions having any trouble seeing at nighttime. But he does mention having to use the sunglasses to protect his eyes in the daytime. So there is no mention of electricity or lights, and there is no mention of having any problem of seeing in the dark. Allalu took a pebble and tossed it in the area. And as he moved across the marsh, he noticed that there were fish in the water. So he got his tester, he put it in the water, and he tested these murky, dark waters. And he was devastated to find out that the water tested unsafe for him to drink. So at this point, he does a U-turn and decides to go look more in the forest area and leaves the marshland. And he was very happy to find that there were several trees bearing fruits. The area looked like an orchard, and the smell was nice and enticing. Allalu put some of the fruits to his lip and rejoiced when he realized that it was sweet and delicious. He had food. He would survive. He then started walking away from the sun's ray, and he was heading towards the hills. He had chosen that destination to go and explore now. He noticed that through the branches and the dirt there was moisture. That meant that there was water nearby. The more he followed the moisture, the finally he found ponds and ponds of water. And here he sets out to test it. Because right now he found fruits to eat, but there was no potable water. These waters he was in now were clearer in color, so he decided to test that area. And seeing that these waters were safe to drink, Allalu couldn't stop laughing. There was fruit, there were fish, and there was water to drink. He threw himself down, cupped his hands, and drank as much water as he could. He says the water was cold and noticed that it had no flavor, meaning that water on Nibiru has flavor to it, which would make sense since it's a volcanic planet. And when you have volcanoes near water, they do leave this residual flavor in the water. All of a sudden, he was terrified. He heard a hissing sound, something very unfamiliar to him. He never heard it before. And he spotted for the very first time a snake. He couldn't understand how this creature, without hands or legs, was walking and running so fast, slithering through the marshlands and the grass. He was disgusted by it, and this only tells us that Nibiru does not have snakes. He had never even seen snakes before they came to Earth. If this was the first time of him seeing a snake, there goes the whole story of Enki being a half-serpent being. That can't be true, because he never saw a snake and didn't know what it was, and it disgusted him. So I believe what happened instead was that when Enlil was mad at his brother Enki for telling Adam and Eve about knowledge and how to procreate, that's when he called them a snake, because snakes disgusted them. They didn't like them. So it didn't mean that he was a literal snake or had a snake body. It means that it was a dispregiativo. It was a bad name.